Now, his name in classic doll fashion comes from his original owner, Walter Tomlinson, born allegedly in 1927, and he liked to start fires in the doll's presence, and that's how Walt the doll got his hunger and love of the flames. This was the one toy Walter didn't destroy, and spent his days with little human contact because he was suffering from violent outbursts. As punishment for attacking a housekeeper, the doll was taken from him, and in retaliation he set fire to his house. Thankfully nobody was hurt, but at that point he was sent to a state sanitarium, and he passed away sadly there. For context, by the way, Mysterion, the current caretaker of the doll, his home is already haunted by a number of ghosties, so I don't think that helps with Walt's general chaos, because this doll enjoys tormenting animals, setting fires, and communicating through his little bell. I believe we actually have footage of him setting a fire at a live seance, and trust me, that was real. I know when things are faked. That wasn't it. The last 3 owners before Mysterion that took possession of Walt sadly all wound up being victims of mysterious house fires. And also, fun little side fact, there's a lock of hair buried in his head that Mysterion believes came from the original owner, but nobody's cracked it open to know for sure. The story of Ikki Ningyo all began with Junji Inagawa, a multi-talented artist deeply involved in traditional Japanese plays, and stumbled upon a peculiar incident one night. There was a radio broadcast on, and there was a distressed crew member who claimed to have heard the voice of a fan who had passed away many months ago, sending shivers down everybody's spines. Inagawa, no stranger to the mysteries of the supernatural, encountered something inexplicable on the way home. A younger girl in a red kimono. Seemingly, a normal girl, until she defied gravity and approached him, unseen by others. As he delved into a new theatrical project featuring a doll, he was horrified to discover that the doll bore a striking resemblance to the levitating girl from that fateful night. The eerie incidents that followed seemed like a series of ominous messages from the other side. The artisan who crafted the doll vanished, a scriptwriter's house was mysteriously consumed by flames, and accidents plagued the rehearsals. Perhaps the most unsettling of all were the injuries that specifically targeted the right hand and right knee of crew members. Alrighty folks, allow me to tell the wonky tale of how a ballerina ragdoll came to be in my possession. To set the scene, picture smaller Alexa, probably dressed in something pink, wandering around an arts and crafts market in a college gym. And at one booth in particular, I spotted this gorgeous ragdoll in a pink dress. And I was like, hey mom, Christmas is coming, I want her. Fast forward to Christmas morning, I'm unwrapping my gifts, and one of the beautiful packages under the tree, I open it, and it's a ragdoll with short, stringy red hair and a blue dress. Now, I'm sure you can be like, okay, what's the problem here? The doll I wanted was pink, this one was blue, and while I tried to appear grateful, I didn't really love blue at the time, so it was very obvious. My mom reached out to the lady she got the doll from. Turns out there was a mix-up, but the doll in the pink dress I'd fallen in love with, no longer available. But she's like, hey, if you want to exchange it, sure. So I found a purple doll and wound up with this beauty with a nose that looks like a mouth and a tiny little mouth, and she's got the gangly arms and legs. She found her home on a bright yellow rocking chair that lived in a corner of my bedroom for many, many years. And when I left home to go to university, she stayed behind for reasons. And during my second year of university, my dad was sleeping in my old bedroom, and he was so creeped out by her that she found a new home, the closet. Nowadays, she lives in the living room of my apartment because while I can't find it in me to pass her on to somebody or burn the thing, she has an energy that cannot just be ignored, and I'm already prone to nightmares. I don't need any more bad mojo. The Okiku doll was bought in Sapporo by Eikichi Suzuki in 1918 for his sister Okiku. She played with this doll every day. She took it everywhere. She would talk with it. She eventually called the doll her name because she considered it a duplicate of herself. It never left her sight. Sadly, a year later, in 1919, a tragedy struck. Poor Okiku passed away from yellow fever while she was holding the doll firmly in her grasp. After her passing, the doll was placed in the family's altar, and that's when the weirdness started to occur. One day, the family started to notice that the doll's hair was getting longer. Once a traditional shoulder-length cut with neat ends, now a mangled mess of split ends reaching past down her waist. It was scruffy, different colors, felt different. At night, the family would dream of Okiku. Sometimes the doll would appear by their side come morning. The chilling events intensified into full-blown acts of spiritual manifestation. We're talking lights flickering on and off, bangings in the house, strange voices, the whole shebang. Yvonne Hydes is an events manager for the Scottish Ghost Company and has organized paranormal investigations for many, many years. And during one event at Easter House's Proven Hall, she received an old-looking doll from one of the members. Her friend David, who is a certified medium, absolutely hates the doll because the moment she brought the doll home and he was there, he was like, no, keep that in the garage, it's making me feel uneasy. Then her dog took a dislike to the doll being in the room. room. It was barking, it was shaking. And when, the caretaker of the doll was telling people about the doll, it was almost as if the doll could hear her. So the ghost company took the doll to a park to investigate things further. They did a live stream, they tied a red light around her with the hopes of allowing the spirit to transfigure its face onto the doll. And during the process, Yvonne and a couple of other folks were like, yo, the doll blinked. And then they were like, hey, do we want to bury it? Do we want to keep it? They decided to keep it. I wish them luck.
The vampire's coffin. This small ancient coffin was brought to the Warrens by a family who believed that it housed the spirit of a vampire. First of all, Team Edward, that's pretty cool. I love a vampire. I wanted to be one when I was a kid. Still do, whatever, we won't talk about it. But the coffin, intricately carved with sinister symbols, was said to bring misfortune and ill health to anyone who owned it. I mean, yeah, it's a vampire coffin with sinister symbols. You don't have to explain why this is a bad one to touch. No touchy, no vampire touchy. The Warrens explained that the coffin was a powerful dark relic capable of channeling vampiric energy and feeding on the life force of those nearby. Maybe that's why I'm so pale. Maybe just talking about it, the life force is leaving me as we speak, so better move on, huh? The Crooked Man's Cane. A twisted, gnarled cane allegedly belonging to a malevolent spirit known as the Crooked Man. This guy was in The Conjuring 2, and I gotta tell you, I think I could take him. To be honest. Crooked man meet lanky man. Let's do this, pal. The cane was found in an old house where people experienced strange accidents and misfortunes, all that bad stuff, you name it. So the Warrens took possession of it, believing that it was cursed and had been used as a focus for dark rituals. Since then, visitors who have touched the cane, not sure why you would ever do that, but they all reported feeling an intense cold and seeing the shadowy figure of a bent old man following them around, whispering in a creepy voice. Yeah, he probably wants his cane back. Sounds like he just needs that. I don't know. He's hunched over and he's unhappy. Sounds like a man who for sure needs a cane. Maybe that's my opinion. Maybe if you didn't take people's belongings, you wouldn't be cursed, Ed and Lorraine. Just a thought. The bridal dress. This antique wedding dress is said to be cursed, as are all of these objects, causing tragedy for anyone who tries it on. Okay. I'm not sure I can fit in this one, so I don't gotta worry, but some of you, good luck. The dress was worn by a bride who was driven mad on her wedding day and killed her groom. Yeah, that's love at not first sight. The Warrens believed that her spirit remained attached to this dress, filled with jealousy and rage. Now, several women who tried the dress on, again, not sure why you would do that, they all experienced terrifying visions and sudden outbursts of anger. Maybe the husband was like, I don't know, it looks a little big on you. And she's like, I'm angry now. Maybe it was normal. But one woman nearly attacked her fiance after wearing it, so maybe it's the relationship, maybe it's the curse. I don't want any more answers. The dress is now stored in a glass case where its dark energy can be contained but not entirely subdued. So don't try this one on. Maybe leave those spaghetti straps off and away. The toy monkey. This one's kind of fun but very, very haunting. This old-fashioned toy monkey with symbols is far from playful. We've all seen these, right? Just smacks the symbols together. Not sure who would want that. It's pretty loud and annoying, but I get it. It was brought to the Warrens by a family haunted by this constant, eerie sound of the monkey's symbols clashing at night. Even when the toy had no batteries, the monkey would crash on. That hurt my knuckle doing that. The family reported poltergeist activity at first and seeing shadowy figures all around the monkey after they arrived in their home, which, I mean, telltale sign that you have a cursed house, for sure, that monkey's cursed. But the Warrens believe that the toy serves as a conduit for a demonic presence, seeking to torment and frighten. It's now displayed, of course, behind glass and its symbols forever at rest. Honestly, I would want to hear it play just one symbol, just one, and then I'll go home, because I don't really believe this one. I don't believe that there's a haunted toy. Although I did grow up with Furbies, so maybe I do believe in haunted toys after all. Those things would do whatever they want. The werewolf paw. In Annabelle Comes Home, we see in the museum a werewolf paw sitting on a shelf. That's a little Easter egg in a not so great movie. Then later on in the film, we see a real werewolf outside of the Warrens. Alright, this is most likely a nod to a London case involving the Warrens, where a man was behaving like a werewolf. Love that. Love when a guy just freaks out. He would just flip and become one. Not physically, he wouldn't grow hair or anything like that, but he would use his fingers like claws and he would growl and attack people on the streets of London. That's a werewolf. That's, call it what you want. That's definitely a werewolf curse. This man was William Ramsay, and the Warrens believed this to be the same spirit responsible for transforming humans into wolves back in the day, aka lycanthropy. In 1989, the solution was for Ed and Lorraine to bring Bill to the States, where Bishop Robert McKenna performed an exorcism exorcism, turning the man back into his regular, non-wolfy self. Now, could there be a real wolf paw in the museum responsible for the Werewolf of London case? Probably. It's not confirmed, but if it's in the movie, I'm guessing there's something like that lying around. Ooh, terrifying. Kicking off our list at number 10, Israel Cursed Tomb. Here we go, right off the hop. A secret tomb was discovered in Israel only a month ago. Now, this is the first time a tomb has been found at the UNESCO World Heritage Site in 65 years. Now, the actual cave itself was discovered only a year ago, but these smaller chambers are being found recently, as like a month ago recently. And the tomb found came along with a message. Awesome, we love those. It vows to curse anybody who would open the grave, and this message is also written in blood red, so yeah. Can we not open this one, maybe? Last time we had a black sarcophagus in Egypt, people were sticking their heads in for no reason, just to see what's up. And then, you know, a plague happened. So, number 9, Polish King Curse. Some of you may remember this, or your parents might so ask them about this at dinner. Yeah, make it weird tonight. Ask them about a Polish king curse tonight while you're eating food. Back in 1973, a team of archaeologists were jazzed when they uncovered an ancient 15th century tomb. The tomb of the Polish king at the time, King Casimir IV Jagiellon. Now, media was of course all over this discovery, as they should be. It was exciting. Now, everyone was of course making jokes about a curse. You kind of have to, right? We're all thinking about it. What if there's a curse? I don't know. Open it though, still. Some team members involved ended up dying after the discovery. It was a little odd. There were a few who said it was due to a curse, but the sudden illnesses were in fact caused by deadly fungi inside the tomb. So it still was the tomb's fault, but it wasn't a curse per se. It was breathed in, and that's what led to these researchers' untimely death. Number 8, King Tut's Curse. Here we go. Since we're on the topic of illnesses or curses, let's go back 50 more years, shall we? To the legendary discovery of King Tut's tomb in 1922. This discovery is what made everyone, so paranoid when that Polish king curse came out, right? This discovery and what followed is the main reason we believe in mummy curses today. One member of the expedition, George Herbert, passed away suddenly 6 weeks after they opened King Tut's chamber. It was not toxic mold, it wasn't a curse, but rather it was a mosquito bite on the cheek. He got blood poisoning from a mosquito bite, that's all it was. I mean, I'm sure digging up bodies from the past and opening the tombs up doesn't help karma in general, but it wasn't a curse written in red. Not this time. Number 7, a strange resting place. Ancient burial grounds. Okay, these tombs, they come in many different shapes and sizes. Some can be these massive Great Pyramids, and others can be a shallow cave system. Sometimes there's ancient history right below your feet, and you'd never know. In St. Augustine, for example, the remains of a donkey were found buried underground. And judging from the skull and the bones and the placement, something was afoot here. It had clearly been hunted down by humans and placed there purposefully. That's not the mysterious part at all. The mysterious part is that all the bones have been carefully separated and there's no marks to suggest that any tools were used. So researchers believe that this thing wasn't even used for food. So what was it? The limbs were placed to point north and south. That's it. They used this donkey as a compass. How rude is that? What? Donkeys in that area of Florida in the 17th century, that's not bizarre at all. But the way the bones were buried, north and south, that's very odd. That's very Game of Thronesy. You know what I'm saying? What's the message here? What's the point? What's the point? Besides north and south, of course. Number 6, Tortoise Tomb. Okay, somebody called Mario. We got a lot of shells to explain. Okay, pal? Back in 2005 in northern Israel, a tomb of a shaman, who we believe was a 45-year-old woman at the time of her passing, was found in a cave. It was a cave/tomb. Like I said, many different shapes and sizes. There were 28 other skeletons as well, and it appears they had a 6-stage burial. There were beautiful decorations to suggest such, but something that really stood out here were the 86 tortoise bodies discovered in the corner of the tomb. What was going on here? What did we miss? I have FOMO, but I'm not sure why. Was this an ancient feast or a long-lost sacrifice? Either way, poor guys.
A husband and wife believe their Raggedy Ann doll is possessed after a series of terrifying events unfolded. When Lindsay and Lee's doll first arrived in the Museum of Haunted Objects, Lindsay and one of her close friends got mysterious illnesses and nearly avoided 2 car crashes. Lindsay's like, yeah, I just became really ill for some reason. I was in the hospital for a week. The doctors didn't know what was wrong. And then her other friend got really ill, like we're talking abscesses, like all sorts of stuff. On the 2-year anniversary of the couple owning the doll struck again. The heavy Ouija table that they had, which questionable, was hurled over, and that was caught on camera. And then they were like, oh, let's put it in a glass cupboard on a secure hook. The doll got out. I'm like, I don't know, maybe this is a doll that should be burned. Kathy Gallagher said that since moving into her home back in August of 2018, she's experienced a whole series of scary supernatural incidents. We're talking objects moving on their own, shadow figures in the darkness. She was most stunned, I think, when a camera she'd set up in her basement captured a black mass emerging from her mother's old doll from the 1950s. And she doesn't know what it could be. So footage captured showed her cat, Salem, visibly distressed and staring intently at the doll before what appears to be black mist appearing from one of the dolls and drifts in the kitty's direction, sending the poor little kitty bolting for its life. The footage is so freaky that folks online were like, okay, you digitally altered this, you did something. And the family's like, no, like we're debunking this, like this is real, we just want to know what the heck is going on. Robert the doll originally belonged to Robert Eugene Otto, a very eccentric artist, but what great artists aren't? Neighbors of Robert used to hear him having a conversation with the doll, and we're talking this is like when he was a grown-up, but you do you, pal. He brought it everywhere. He talked about it in the first person as if it weren't a doll. And this doll remained stored in the Otto family home until Robert passed in 1974. After his death, a couple bought the house, and their daughter found the doll in the attic, and she claimed the doll was trying to kill her. So obviously the doll is now on display in a museum and is still believed to curse people. His last caretaker before the museum experienced him disappear and reappear as he pleased. They heard footsteps, they heard giggling. Some folks claim that Robert's expression changes whenever anybody badmouths his previous owner in his presence. Allegedly he's been responsible for car crashes, divorces, broken bones. I don't want to be cursed, so I'm just gonna say, good Robert! Donna and Angie were student nurses and good friends who decided to room together while in school. And for Donna's 28th birthday, her mama gifted her a very large Raggedy Ann doll, something she was thrilled about. I'd be thrilled. Give me that next year. Soon after adopting the precious doll, Donna started to notice some weird behavior. So she would leave the doll on her bed every morning. She'd lock her bedroom door, seating her the same way with her arms and legs crossed, but she'd come home at night to Annabelle having moved rooms and being in positions that weren't possible. She described a couple of instances of the doll kneeling, and dolls that are stuffed cannot kneel unless it's like movable joints. Dawn and Angie then started finding notes left throughout the apartment written on parchment paper and in red pen, two things they didn't own. When Donna's boyfriend Lou started criticizing the doll, unexplainable handprints and scratches began appearing on his body. And that's when the girls were like, hey, let's call a priest. And that priest brought in the Warrens. They were able to calm down the entity enough to remove it from the home and transport her to their museum where she resides to this day, unless of course their son-in-law keeps taking it out of the museum, and then that's a whole other conversation. And finally for today, this last legend states that Bodhidharma sat and meditated for so long that he became a round doll. During his travels, he stopped for a time in a monastery in China. He continued his journey until he decided to settle in a cave and meditate, and that's where our story began. The monk became a wall gazer. He meditated, eyes to the wall, in a seated position for 9 years. No breaks, no closing your eyes, maybe once after 7 years. And he was so furious at himself for what he perceived as lack of discipline that he got rid of his eyelids so that he would never do that again. As the eyelids touched the ground, they sprouted green tea plants. This legend is one of the reasons behind Buddhist monks often drinking green tea to stay awake. And on top of that, Bodhidharma also suffered the loss of his arms and legs as a consequence of his immobility for 9 years. Art and folklore depicting him show him almost exclusively displaying these characteristics, which is why the Daruma dolls symbolize the positions and features. And this doll is said to have been created by the Buddhist followers after his passing, and there's quite a few stories about it. I don't have all day, sadly, but we've got 15 years of backup for stories.
The shadow doll is a sinister looking figure crafted from what appears to be bones and bird feathers. It's believed to have been used in dark rituals. According to the Warrens, this doll has the terrifying ability to enter people's dreams and paralyze them with fear. Some who have encountered it report feeling a heavy, oppressive energy and even waking up with scratches on their body. So what in the Freddy Krueger is happening? Is this all a bunch of BS, or is this doll actually possessed? I'll be honest, just looking at the doll, I don't feel too great. It feels like a forbidden image, like I shouldn't be looking at this. A photo is the closest you'll get because this doll remains locked away in the museum to prevent it from spreading any nightmarish influence any further. So take a good look. Never again. This antique mirror was reportedly used in occult rituals to summon spirits. Now, the Warrens acquired it from a man who claimed that it had caused terrifying visions and paranormal activity in his home. Guests who dare to gaze into this mirror have reported seeing shadowy figures, ghostly faces looking back, and ominous shapes moving within its reflective surface. If you're a fan of the Conjuring series, which I hope many of you are, you may recognize this mirror from one of the most frightening scenes in the franchise. Director James Wan wanted wanted to use the music box in the first film because, well, mirrors and creepy tones make for great suspense on film. Sure, that's one reason, but also this was a real haunted artifact from the real Conjuring house. Now today the box is safely stored in the Warrens Museum alongside other items that look more or less normal upon first glance. April, the youngest of the Perrin children who lived in the Conjuring house, she was the one who found this antique in the first place, and she supposedly used it to communicate to another spirit, a spirit named Rory. Casual name for a spirit, Rory. In the movie, this was a happy ending with the family and the curse, but in real life, the Bathsheba Sherman witch curse was never resolved. That was just for the movie, so sleep in fear. The satanic idol was discovered in the woods of Connecticut. It's this bizarre carved figure, and it just looks odd. It looks like something from the Blair Witch Project, doesn't it? Just looking at a photo of this idol gives me chills. I don't want this anywhere in my home. Thank you very much. Where'd it come from? How old is it? What does it mean? The Warrens believe that the statue was used in satanic rituals to invoke demonic spirits. Love that. Love a real artsy connection. When Ed Warren brought it back to the museum, he said strange occurrences began the day of, such as disembodied voices and an overpowering sense of dread permeating the area. Some visitors have felt nauseous or faint near this idol as if it emits a malevolent energy. The idol remains one of the most ominous objects in this museum, shrouded in an aura of ancient unknowable evil. Would you ever keep this idol in your house? I mean, it's a nice piece of art. If it weren't for the, haunting part, sure, I'd find a corner for it. The pearl necklace. And no, I'm not talking about that one. This seemingly delicate string of pearls was reported to tighten around the necks of those who wore it. That is so scary, leaving them gasping for breath. The necklace was given to the Warrens by a terrified woman who claimed that it belonged to a jealous spirit. Now, after the pearls nearly got her, she begged the Warrens to take it away. Please, I don't want this pearl necklace anymore. The necklace is kept behind glass now, but even at a distance, some visitors report feeling a cold, suffocating sensation around their neck, as if unseen hands were trying to choke them just by standing near it. Yeah, we love a jealous, catty spirit. Nice rich pearl necklaces. Yeah, Marge Simpson, no, who wears the pearls? Lisa Simpson, that's it. Yeah, the ghost of Lisa Simpson is haunting those pearl necklaces. We love that. The antique death mask. It was cast from the face of a man who died while wearing it, and it carries a heavy, sinister energy. Obviously, if you die in anything, now that piece of clothing is going to be haunted, 100%. The Warrens believe that this mask kept the tormented spirit of the deceased, who was trapped between worlds. Now, those who have touched or handled the mask have reported intense feelings of despair, vivid nightmares, and seeing the ghostly figure of the man in their peripheral vision. Yeah, love that. Love seeing a man in my peripheral vision. That's so scary. The mask is now locked away to prevent further contact with these tormented spirits that it seems to contain, casting a shadow over all who dare to approach it. Honestly, if that was me, I would be so tempted to see if I turned into Jim Carrey's The Mask. I'd want to try it on just once, real quick. Right, we're good. Number 5, The Anguished Man. Historical paintings are cool. I guess. I don't know, they're pretty interesting. But this is the first time I've read up on the Anguished Man myself, and I wish I didn't, to be honest. It's pretty unsettling. It's now considered one of the most haunted objects in the world, and it looks like the part 2. It looks like it's from a horror movie. This oil painting was created by, of course, an unknown artist, but the actual paint here used in the painting is mixed with blood, real blood. Their legit DNA is in this painting, whoever it is. Their blood, sweat, and tears. Great. Not much is known of the artist as they passed away shortly after, but the current owner is Sean Robinson from Cumbria, England. His grandmother had given him said painting. There wasn't much known beforehand. Maybe she just found it at an auction, whatever. But his grandmother did warn him that it was cursed. Yeah, here's some Werther's original, and also here's a cursed painting. Enjoy. Sean had to leave it in his basement at first because his wife wasn't on board. More than fair. I'd be like, no, can we not? Can we turn it around? Thanks. But when the basement randomly flooded, he had to move it upstairs at that point, which is already pretty creepy. Now after, the couple heard crying or screams or whispering, things you don't want to hear alone in a house with a haunted painting coming from the room with the painting. It got so bad Robinson uploaded time-lapse footage to YouTube in 2011, and it shows the door closing by itself next to the painting. Also, yeah, keep this in the basement or flood it, I don't care. I agree with the missus here. Number 4. music box. We had to include one of the creepiest elements of the Conjuring movie, because it's a real thing. Director James Wan wanted to use the music box in the first film because, mirrors and creepy tones make for great suspense and all that jazz. But this was also a real haunted artifact from the real haunted house. Today the box is safely stored in the Warrens Occult Museum, like I mentioned before, just a fun house of scary that you should definitely never touch, alongside other items that look more or less normal, right? One of which is the real Annabelle doll. This part of the movie actually scared the shit out of me. Any mirror scene, I can't do it. I end up eating my hoodie. They always do it slow too. I hate movie scenes that include mirrors. But this is real life though, you can't forget that. This music box actually caused a lot of trouble for these poor girls. Specifically April, youngest of the Perrin family. She found this unique antique in the house and then she used it to communicate to another spirit. A spirit that just happened to be named Rory. Yeah, it's a great haunted name, Rory. Nice, it's not friendly at all. In the movie, this was a happy ending, whatever, but in real life, the Bathsheba Sherman case was never resolved. Number 3, the Hope Diamond Curse. Coming from the 1660s, here we go. This curse began when a gem dealer named Jean-Baptiste Tavernier bought this large diamond when visiting India. Or so he said, he bought it. The origins of the diamond were unknown, but it didn't matter. This beauty was just sitting there. Well, later on, after he got the diamond, rumors started spreading throughout Europe and the United States that Tavernier actually stole the diamond from a statue of a Hindu goddess. Yeah, that sounds a little more on the nose. That's a bit more accurate. A little different than his story, but sadly a little more believable. The newspapers actually kicked this one off by publishing the Hope Diamond as an ancient curse. That ought to help, right? That spreads the word, I guess. The diamond at one point ended up in the hands of King Louis XVI and his wife, Marie Antoinette. Now, if you don't know about them, they were, they had some rough history happen with their heads being off their body and stuff. They lost their lives during the French Revolution, to say the least. The guillotine Dream Team, that's what we call them. The stone then went to Lord Francis Hope come 1839, and by that point it was deemed cursed. This is when it got the name the Hope Diamond, right? They ended up selling said diamond shortly after being reduced to poverty, and then Evelyn Welsh McLean bought the stone in 1912. Shortly after that, her son was killed in a car accident. When the stone was delivered to its final and current home, the Smithsonian, back in 1958, the driver who was delivering the package was later hit by a truck. Now he survived, but shortly after his house caught fire. Moral of the story, you don't need diamonds, for more reasons than one. Number 2, the Busby Stoop Chair. Coming from 1702, 10 years after the Salem witch trials, so take this one with a grain of salt, people made odd choices back then, okay? Women were witches because they knew math, and chairs were evil. Welcome to 1702. Good luck. Englishman Thomas Busby had some issues with his father-in-law. He didn't handle them well, so now he had to be hanged for it. Yeah, he can't commit crimes to resolve problems. It's not a good thing. Can't just kill people for no reason, Thomas. What is this, 1692? He was hanged near the Humble Inn, which is an ironic name, but a chair that was nearby is now said to hold the spirit of one Thomas Busby. If you sit on this chair, you are set to die in a frightful accident. So the chair was declared haunted, but did anything actually happen? Yeah. Locals say during World War II, airmen from a nearby base came to the pub, and those who sat on it never returned. And then in the 70s, more accidents were connected, but they still kept it around until 1978. Yeah, it stayed in the inn for that long, until it was donated to the Thirsk Museum. It's not even a rocking chair either. It looks like it should be a rocking chair, but it's not a rocking chair. That's the scariest part in my opinion. You try and lean back, you're like, oh, I really thought it was gonna rock there. Damn, it's disappointing. And finally, number 1, a ghost caught in a photograph. Yeah, this one ought to end the list in a pretty bizarre way. Doesn't matter where or when, but odds are you've seen this photo at some point in your life. You know when you see a photo, sometimes you just get bad vibes, like it registers in your brain as something scary but also real. Like you want to find something that looks fake about this photo, but it's tough. This photo was taken inside the Amityville house in 1976. It's a young lad with glowing white eyes, kind of hard to miss. It was taken with automatic cameras equipped with infrared, and it makes it even creepier that the boy looks like he's peeking around the corner. Nice, just hiding from you in his invisible ghost land. We love it. A photographer named Gene Campbell took this photo, and Gene at the time was working with paranormal investigators Ed and Lorraine Warren. This photo was revealed 3 years after it was taken on the Merv Griffin show, and many believe this is the ghost of one John DeFeo, one of the boys who lived there prior to that 1974 event. Yeah, we're still trying to figure this out. What do you guys think? Elaborate hoax, or perhaps this is one solid piece of evidence that the Amityville house is indeed haunted? and ghosts are indeed real. Kicking off our list at number 10, a cursed phone number. The song 8675309/Jenny has been stuck in my head for about 18 years now. It's a classic. That song is a banger. Great jingle too. Imagine if a pizza place figured that number out first. Would have been game over. A cursed phone number. What are we talking about here? This phone number, apparently cursed, is 359-888 and then a bunch of 8s afterwards, okay? What's the deal here? Anybody who's had this phone number in the last 20 years or so, apparently they've all met their fate in a weird way. CEO of a Bulgarian phone company, he got cancer at 48. And then 2 criminals later on, both of their deaths were a little bit more mysterious than cancer. All these deaths that happened were within 4 years of each other. That's the, curse aspect of it all. The phone number was suspended, so nobody's able to use it now. Maybe it was a cursed number, or maybe the number had ties to crime. 8675309 is still stuck in my head. Number 9. The organ. Music is said to bring life into the room, but this time it's a bit too literal for my liking. There is a real organ in the Occult Museum. This belonged to Ed and Lorraine Warren for quite a while, the paranormal investigators. Of course, all these things are found in a haunted house. In one way or another, it's haunted or cursed, as are all these in this list. This organ apparently would play by itself throughout the night. In total, there were 3 different incidents where Ed thought somebody had broken into the museum because he heard the organ being played, but by the time he arrived in a panic, the room was empty. Classic. Nothing had been touched, there was no visitors. Of course, it was just a cursed piano. Nice. A priest then came to bless the museum and the music eventually stopped. But before her passing, Lorraine Warren said to USA Today that the prayers do work, and they blind the evil much like an electric fence does for a dog. Number 8. Photograph of Bathsheba Sherman. You always see these videos of UFOs and they're filmed with like a BlackBerry curve. It's just rubbish, it's horrible quality. There's never clear evidence of anything nowadays, right? But we may just have a clear photo with the real Bathsheba Sherman, the witch in the original Conjuring film, that real person in real life. Yeah, we have a real photo of a real witch. This is crazy. This photo is from the Perrin family farmhouse back when it was still the Arnold estate. This was 1885, so the witch was most likely in her 70s at this time, and this witch lived next door to said farm, and although we'll never really know for sure, many believe she's the lady in the middle closest to the camera. Also, the fact that she's wearing some sort of mask and she's standing by herself and looks like a witch, I don't know, definitely her, most definitely her. I feel like nobody wants to stand next to a literal witch, It's like a big radius around her. That's how you know it's her. Imagine doing a silly one with Bathsheba Sherman. You're like, hey, bunny ears, don't curse me. Number 7, the Bassano vase. This vase comes from the 15th century. It was made for an excellent wedding gift, but the night before, the bride sadly lost her life with the vase still in her hands. So a lot of questions, right? The family of course kept it afterwards, but as the vase was passed down the family line, a pattern began to unveil itself. Whomever held possession of the Bassano vase died shortly after in a weird way. Now keep in mind, this was the 15th century, okay? The average lifespan was already 30 to 40 years old. But after this many deaths in the family, it was packed away for good, okay? Or so they thought. This vase showed up again in history in 1988 alongside a single note. The note was pretty to the point. It said, "Beware, this vase brings death." End of note. Whoever found it was like, okay. And then continued on with it. Yeah, they kept the vase, didn't heed the warning, and then it was auctioned for over $2,000 sans note. Yeah, the pharmacist who won the auction, well, you guessed it, they passed away within months. Number 6, ghost boots. These boots are made for haunting, and that's just what they'll do. Yeah, I put a pair of boots on this list. That's where we're at now. Let's do it. This is a photo of a young lady and it may look like a classic family trip, but upon closer inspection, it seems like somebody is standing behind her. Now, of course, tracing this photo back to its origins, her father said nobody was behind her at this time, that it was taken, because that would be pretty weird, right? Hey, stand right here in an open field, thanks. Hey, can you move please? There's an open field. Thanks. It's a little weird. This shot was taken at Zushi Kanagawa in Japan. You can see boots and what looks like clothing sticking out from behind her elbow. Father said, "I took a few photos. When I was looking through them at night, I noticed the boots behind her. I took several in the same spot, but only one of these photos had the boots." Yeah, you always see that in movies, right? They're always going through these photos at night at like 2 a.m. Then they find something scary. It's never at Walmart in the middle of the day. Know what I mean? It's always scary in a dark kitchen. Ugh. What would you do? I would freak out. And he freaked out, obviously. He showed a friend, and then said friend posted it on Reddit, hence why we're here now. Haunted boots. The more you know. Number 5. The sitting man. Okay, of all the tombs to find, this one would be the most horrifying. This would be so jarring to stumble across, okay? Buckle up. Back in 2005, researchers found a Mayan tomb in Honduras from the 5th century, okay? It's a long time ago. And the body inside was not lying down. It wasn't a pile of bones pointing east or west this time. Rather, it was in a chair, sitting up. Like a villain from Zelda. How scary would that be? I mean, it's beautiful, but that's jarring to stumble across. You know what I mean? Whoever was the first person to look and see that, brave soul. That's all I'm saying. The body found, it appears to be an elite member of the Mayan Empire. He passed away, we think, around 650 AD. Yeah, the guy gets propped up in a chair. That's awesome. His legs were crossed and he was rocking jade jewelry. This was very royal. And the tomb itself was actually upright as well. It's common fear to be buried alive, but in this case, you'd have plenty of room. You'd be like, oh, we're good. These types of tombs are actually quite rare to find, but the fact that this one is also in great condition and there's somebody sitting cross-legged inside, double rare. Here we go. Number 4. The Terracotta Army. This is, I mean, talk about curses. Oh boy. The tomb of Emperor Qi Shi Huang, China's first emperor. Okay, in this tomb, we can find 8,000 statues. This one is quite loaded. I almost made this number 1 just out of principle. But they all have unique carvings on their face, as if to suggest these are all custom statues, all representing an individual from that long ago. All 8,000 of them. The emperor believed that after he had passed away, he would have the spirits of his enemies to face, so he wanted to be prepared even after death. The emperor decided to close the tomb before the workers even had a chance to get out. It was horrible. He was worried his enemies had found out, so there's of course lots of statues down there and a lot of dark history, just all piled into one. I would never go near this. I think the Mummy 3 is about this tomb. It didn't do so well, but yeah, scary concept. Number 3, message from Egyptian afterlife. We're all curious what happens after you die, of course, but nobody celebrated the end of your days like ancient Egyptians did, right? It's beautiful. Like I've mentioned before on this channel, they would have these fake painted doors. They would leave valuables. Any new tomb that we discover provides more hints as to what lies beyond, right? An ancient necropolis was discovered only a few years ago, again in Egypt. It contains dozens of coffins and a necklace that holds a message from the afterlife. Okay, now we're talking. This site is around 2,000 years old, and they're in the process of excavating it as we speak, / as I mansplain to you about these tombs. But so far the tombs and artifacts found, officials think, belong to an ancient priestess. A message from the afterlife is pretty spectacular, but what does it say exactly? Well, we're still waiting to find out. These things take time, you know? Number 2, mythical carvings. Back in 2014, a 1,700-year-old cemetery was discovered along the Silk Road, which are these ancient highways connecting China and the Roman Empire. Now in the city of Kucha, now in northwest China, the cemetery was found along with 10 ancient tombs, one of which was referred to as M3. M3 didn't have any haunting messages this time around, but it did contain several carvings of mythical creatures. Creatures that were once alive? Question mark. There's the white tiger of the west, the black turtle of the north, the vermilion bird of the south, so far so lovely, and then there's the azure dragon of the east, a little bigger, a little bit more mighty. These mythical carvings represent different seasons and the heavens, but could the other 6 carvings mean depictions of hell? Probably, possibly. And finally, number 1, the Ring of Sekenianas. One ring to rule them all. And by rule, I mean curse you and your entire family. Don't touch this. This is why you don't steal from ancient tombs. Has to be number 1. This 12-gram gold ring, for starters, looks beautiful. And secondly, it's massive. Its diameter was 25 millimeters, so unless you were wearing some sort of infinity gauntlet, she's probably gonna fall off your little Jack Skellington fingers, you know what I mean? The ring had first been found in 1785. A farmer was plowing a field in Silchester Village, a village west of London known for its grim history, because in 45 AD, ancient Romans invaded that site. And come the 7th century, it was completely abandoned. And probably pretty cursed. The ring was mighty and even had an inscription on it, a Latin inscription, of course. It read, Senequian vivas indium. And when 1929 rolled around, new details surfaced, or resurfaced rather. The data from the ring matched an excavation that was done in the early 1900s less than 100 miles away, in a place called Lydney. That's where this ring is from. At the same site, however, a tablet was found recalling the Celtic god of healing and hunting, and how his favorite ring got stolen. I'm connecting some stories here. Uh-oh, I may have stolen something I shouldn't have. If this rings a bell, yes, Lord of the Rings was inspired by this exact legend. The tablet also says, may he who bears the name of Senekianus not have health until he brings the ring back to the Temple of Nodens. Yeah, let's get that ring back ASAP, Rocky. That would be great. I'll be a lot quicker than Lord of the Rings. I'll be a lot quicker than 3 movies. I'll tell you that. Where's this temple? I'll put in my Uber right now. I'm on my way.